DJ Mermaid here with a quick reminder that support for this streaming content is brought to you by the members of our station. You can become a member today by clicking the donate button online at hawaiipublicradio.org. And if you're already a member, mahalo nui for your support. It's 6 o'clock here in the islands on this Sunday evening. I'm DJ Mermaid Paige Okamura, welcoming you to another episode of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. Last week, we talked about love and all the different forms of love that can be seen in Hawaiian music. And this week, we're going to take the opposite approach and look at other feelings of not quite love, maybe scorn, maybe some uncomfortable feelings of being left alone, or maybe even infidelity. We'll be taking a deep dive into mele that talk about the opposite of love on tonight's episode of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. Full set list can be found online at hawaiipublicradio.org. We'll be right back after the news. Aloha ahiahi kako. I'm DJ Mermaid Paige Okamura, and you are tuned in to HPR1's Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. Last week, we talked about love and how we see love in Hawaiian music. Well, this week, we are going to look at the opposite end of love and look at what we see. Well, there's so many things on the opposite side of love, but we're going to take a dive into the music that showcases these different feelings. Not everything is about love. I think it's so easy to say that Hawaiian music, oh, it's all about love. It sounds pretty. And that's really the catch-22, is it might sound pretty to you, but if you don't know what it's saying, you don't even realize that it might actually be an insult. We opened up tonight's show with Kekuhi's Uso Ole, which is a play on the word useless in English and Hawaiian at the same time, sort of. Uso Ole, that's the negative. No longer are you useful, you are useless. It's a song about love, but it's a song about feeling like love is a useless thing, and compares it to He lau kapu'u he mano ka ihona, na kahawai lau o hilo. right? Love is this useless thing, just like how useless it is that Hilo has so many rivers and so many hills, which is exactly what Hi'iaka tells Pele. She says, He lau ka pu'u he mano ka ihona, paua wa ne'i kuaho. There are so many ups and downs that I have to go through that I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And that was what she told Pele. And in this mele, we're talking about how there's so many ups and downs in love that sometimes you just want to give up. You just want to ha'avipio. Like, why? Everybody, all of our kupunas say that love is a beautiful thing. But why? What makes it so beautiful when you have to go through all of this stress? And that's what this song is about, which is why I thought, wa kupono no ka vehe ana I ke ia papahana. Right? It's a great song to start off with. Coming up next, Johnny Kameaaloha Almeida singing Hinahina, which also is one of those mele that sounds real pretty until you realize that it is talking about someone who is accusing someone else, essentially, for their heartbreak. What I love about Hinahina is that it really says, Iheva no yaoi ko avihimaka anamai. It's your fault for winking at me and setting me on a path towards you, when really it's just a mauka uka hoi heva. It's someone who has no idea what they're doing. They paddle with the paddle upside down. That's what that line is about. So we're going to hear Uncle Johnny Almeida's Hinahina into Latitu, about a pilot who thought he was the first to discover someone's harbor. But alas, there have been so many different ships that have come into the harbor before him. Full set list online at hawaiipublicradio.org.
Uluhua valeau, ia mahina kaua hiahi. E kaua e la iluna lai, te pono ia Kamae o kua. Uluhua valeau, ia mahina kaua hiahi. E kaua e la iluna lai, te pono ia Kamae o kua. Aloha kulei hinahina, elei ia mele ka u'alai ka mau kau ka hoe hela. He aloha la, he aloha, aloha kulei hinahina, elei ia mele ka u'alai ka mau kau ka hoe hela. Himaka ana mai, ike e kamea vai vai, hirabi e ke kei kumvali. Hewa no ya oe, sohali himaka ana mai, ike e kamea vai vai, hirabi e ke kei kumvali. Pailaka o ia awa kumokue Loko ino maolino hoi oe e ke hoa Ko lilo ana I ka ulaia Alo
e au kuhele nei I ka moana kai noa o wau wale no ka ike I nā latitu a o ia uni a e ia ka a he nui loa a he lehu lehu nā pailaka o ia awa ku moku e nā pailaka o ia awa ku moku e au me avale o e kekuhi kona mai hopo kure maka mai o e akula mai kuhi mai o e ahe poho kapu ahole ahole la ahole ahole la o e kai hiu akuma ola me kai popua ha o kinala mana o mai o e ahe poho kapu ahole ahole la Ia a pau, ko make make la, alawa e kaunoa o koupuku. A ole no wau a e hopo ana la, a ole la, a ole la. Aina kauhana hopo hae hae la, e ka ipo hopo heno heno, oi mai no hoe, au he aku ipo. Haina kauhana ho'o hae hae la Ke ka ipo ho'o heno heno Hoi mai no hoe Aho he aku ipo Ahole ahole la Ahole ahole la
The Kahauanu Lake Trio with Auntie Alice Namakelua's composition of A Ole La. As the story goes, Auntie Alice was having lunch with Mrs. Margaret Olson at the Alawai Clubhouse, and she happened to ask Mrs. Olson a question if she was teaching hula, and her answer was A Ole La. A Ole La is like telling something, oh, no. It's not just like a no. It's like a insistent no. And in that pane, in that answer, Auntie Alice comes up with this mele. And the story in her mind was a jealous husband who had already gone astray with a hapapake girl. Yeah, that mekaipopua hapa aokinala, with a Chinese girl. And he's constantly basically accusing, it seems like he's accusing her of having a boyfriend, his wife. And his wife is constantly telling him, ole la, no, I don't. You're the one who went astray, as they say. And so it's this interesting melee about jealous feelings and infidelity. Before that, Latitu, where the pailaka is not, to his astonishment, the first pilot to komo kiava moku, to komo somebody's harbor. It's real big Christopher Columbus energy, but it's interesting, the feelings we feel when they're not love or when we're led astray or in infidelity. Coming up next, one of my favorite songs about infidelity is called Honesakala, which is a honeysuckle flower. It was written by a Lindsay, I Olevau Kuhiheva, of the Lindsay Ohana in Waimea, who would ride his horse from Waimea to Kohala to see his beloved, and I think like betrothed. And so on his way on his horse, he would pick honeysuckle flowers that grew along the way, and he would give her bouquets or leis. And so they had this affair going on or this relationship. And then he goes away to school because the ranch pays for him to go to school. So he leaves, and when he comes back, he makes the ride from Waimea to Kohala again. But when he gets there, someone else's boots are at her door. And so he leaves her the honeysuckles that he's picked for her as a sign that he was here. And now he's seen that she's found someone else. So this is Eddie Kamae and the Sons of Hawaii singing Honesakala here on Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi on member-supported HPR 1.
O he no ke ano ka Honesakala ke ala mua hoi au I honi ai wa ho pai ma ko vai me kai po ke a ke ai kui ai lia au I ka ono o ka vai o ia pua Huai kamana o e ki ho e ako O he kani leo na manu o la Wala hia au me ka kuhi e Iwa iho au I kahile I ua mai Iho ailo na no e ke iho ai Ahi ua ke ia Wahi ke iho nei Ke ahu mai nei Ka me heu Lehelehe Ia au I ka ono ka vai o ia pua Puai kamana o e ki ho e ako O he kani leo na manu o la Wala ahi au me ka kuhi hewa
Lehelehe a Kamae ko I kapelo E a ona e I ka ho'opuni puni Ka apuni e ua puni Hawaii O he lua e mi ke me Haina ia mai ana Kapuana Na he sapa a lea o puni
You're tuned in to member-supported HPR1's Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi, and support for Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi comes from Monkey Pod Kitchen, with locations in Ko'olina, Wailea, and Ka'anapali, and from Moku Kitchen on Oahu and the Beach House on Kauai. Live music and menus by restaurant at handcraftedrestaurants.com. I'm Paige Okamura, DJ Mermaid, your host here on Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. You just heard Lehelehe Blues, performed by Chad Takatsugi, and I just want to make a note that there is also an older recording of this. It's recorded by Uncle Sonny Chillingworth on his vinyl album Sonny, with a great hairdo holding his guitar. I don't have that version on me, but you can find it there if you're interested in finding an older recording. Lehelehe Blues is my favorite scornful insult mele Hawaii, because it sounds great, it sounds fun, it sounds pretty. But what it's really saying is it's accusing a woman in this case who was probably unfaithful, but she is just taken to town in this mele. We talk about, you say he aloha ko, you say that you love me or you have love. He aloha walaia makalehelehe, but really it's just on your lips, like you don't mean it. She's also, it's just so great. There's so many insults in here that there's just too many to count or to say which one's my favorite. But she's also, there's a line that says, oh, you are the best. You're the best at being deceitful and cunning and sly. She's also, unfortunately, compared to a snake. So I don't know, if you really need an infidelity mele that you need, you look up Lehelehe Blues. That's your ticket right there. Here on HPR1, you can find so much great programming, like the Brazilian Experience that's coming up next. But if you want to find more about this show or have any suggestions or feedback for me, you can go to hawaiipublicradio.org/Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi, no markings, just Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi. And you can find tonight's set list, the archive, and my email all on our website. So coming up next, last week we talked about love and matsonia and a love of a parent to a child, but sometimes that love can go wrong. Sometimes there, unfortunately, is no love. So this next song, called Pa'ahana, is about a girl who we often say that she was mistreated by her stepmother. But the version that I heard, 2 degrees removed, but supposedly Kini Sullivan actually met the ohana that this girl comes from, that the song was written for. And I think in an interesting way, in this society, we're so used to the evil stepmother trope that perhaps that's how this happened. But I think what's said, what is told when that family shared that mo'olelo to Kini, is that it wasn't the stepmother who abused this girl, so much so that she ran away and lived in the mountains by herself up in Wahiawa, eating guavas and shrimp in the river, that it was actually her father, like her father, biological father, that caused her to run away. So the opposite of the love you see for a child in Matsonia could possibly be seen here in this mele by Uncle Kawai Cockett on his album Still Strumming. This is Pa'ahana.
Kei noa keia no pa'ahana Kai ka mahine no huaiwi Na ui no aku Ia wao kele Ia uka iu iu Wahiawa
Ikaika Blackburn off of his solo album Maliu with a mele titled He Mihi. It is a leo mihi. It is a song asking, it's a song that's basically saying, I'm sorry. That's that leo mihi. It was written for Ikaika. It's an apology mele. And before that, you heard Piukeona by John P. Ilani Watkins. The thing about Piukeona is that it's about a pigeon, right? Piukeona is a pigeon. And I've heard this song all my life and never thought about what it was about, much less that it was about a pigeon. I don't know. I just, something about Jampi Lani Watkins sings and I just relax. But it doesn't mean I was paying critical attention. But mahalo to my dear Iwalani Ho'omanawa Nui Apo, because she reminded me that, well, yes, we don't want to be called a pigeon. A pigeon is not a pretty bird per se, right? Mele Hawaii, when we love someone, we call them an iiwi, which is this beautiful red color. You have all these different birds that are beautiful. A pigeon is not one of them. So if a song is about a pigeon, it's probably not a nice one. And she reminded me that it is an insult in every single line. And to tell you the story about this mele, the story goes that a woman named Polani had a handsome Hapa Mexico, part Mexican, lover who she loved dearly. And it is said that Polani was beautiful. So another girl who was jealous decided to spread rumors that Polani was slandering her lover and all these things to turn him against her. And so he believed this woman and he wrote this song. And it was so mean because he actually had it sung at a party, at a luau where Polani was the guest. And so upon hearing this mele, it's pretty, I probably couldn't read a direct translation of all of it to you folks. It's probably not even FCC appropriate, but it talks about how she slandered him and the things that he thinks that she said, and calls her all kinds of ugly things. And Polani ends up leaving that party in tears. But she actually ends up recording another mele. She writes a mele and has it performed later as an answer to his. There's a verse that's never been recorded because it's so vulgar of Piukeona, but her response was also never recorded. And then her lover finds out that he was lied to, and then he believed all the lies and, tried to apologize, right? Like, himihi. And she decides to forgive, but not forget. And she doesn't want to have anything to do with him ever again. And this song is still being sung today. So if I was Polani, I might also agree. I'm DJ Mermaid, Paige Okamura. You're listening to Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi on HPR 1. We're exploring songs that are not so nice, including this next one. This is Ale Koki, which alludes to not only a politically thwarted love affair, but also the fact that the composer, I'll tell you about later, has a strong dislike for Alexander Liholiho and has to say Alec in Ale Koki every time the song comes up.
ni kaulilua.
Auntie Genoa Keave singing Hola e Pai, also known as the 5 o'clock hula. It talks about someone who shows up to see their lover just a little bit too early and finds them with someone else. Before that was Ale Koki, George Kaina Po. I think I made a mistake. I was so excited to be like, oh, guess what this song is about, that I probably mixed up the two names, if I remember correctly or not. But the song itself was penned by William Charles Lunalilo. And there's a lot going on in this melon. We usually listen to it like a beautiful date night out to look at the stars and all these things. But it was written also, he had his romance or his relationship thwarted politically. On top of that, he had a strong dislike for Alexander Liholiho. And Alec, like Alex, a little bit of a play on Alekoki there. And actually, if you pay attention, he says, Aole I pilivi ia or Aole I mana'o ia. Like, I didn't even think about this person because of my strong dislike for them. You can find a very extensively researched essay on Ale Koki by looking it up. It's on the Kaiwa Kilomoku site, written by Uncle Kihei de Silva, who's been sometimes my lifeline of research with his extensively published essays. You're listening to Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi here on member-supported Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1. I want to get to the next couple songs. It's all we have time for. I only have an hour. Coming up next, written by Kumupuakea Nogelmeyer, is a mele titled Nematoda. It's about a nematode. And I know who I think he wrote it for. But if you were to look at the liner notes when this song was released on Kili'i Rachel's Eomai album, it says the nematode is a tiny worm in the soil that produces nothing and drains the vitality of plants by sucking on the rootstock. This song addresses the people in life who, while not participating in the work, are quick and willing to be critical and judgmental of the process and the labor force. The fault finders, the naysayers, the poobahs, and the backseat drivers who are, at best, are a nuisance and at worst can hamper real progress. Everyone is probably a nematode at some point and needs to be chided. So I guess every time you listen to it, just take it as a check yourself before you wreck yourself moment. This is Kili'i Rachel off of his album Eomai with Nematoda.
Hewa oe I ka taime ho'okahi Moe ho'okahi ana me ke kapa ole Mea ole ke anu me ke koe Ua hele amaa Ku'u ili nei Ku'u ili nei Hewa oe I ka taime ho'okahi Moe ho'okahi ana me ke kapa ole Mea ole ke anu me ke koe Ua hele amaa Ku'u ili nei Ku'u ili nei He mea uso ole ka Kealoha Like me ke kahawai lau o hilo he lau ka pu'u He mano ka ihona Pau awa nei Ku'u aho nei Ku'u aho nei Wahi ana kupuna he nani I ono O ka leile hua pauku ia me ka hala Pela no ka hoi ke aloha O ia ka Ilohe mau ia Ilohe mau ia He mea uso ole ka ke aloha Like me ke kahawai lau o hilo he lau ka pu'u He mano ka ihona Pau awa nei Ku'u aho nei.
Closing out this episode of Hawaiʻi Kulāiwi with the reimagined version of the mele that kicked off tonight's episode, Uso Ole, here on KHPR Honolulu, KKUA Wailuku, KANO Hilo, KHPH Kailua Kona, KIPL Lihue, and KJHF Kualapu'u. Collectively, the stations of member-supported Hawaiʻi Public Radio 1. I'll be handing you off to Sandy Tsukiyama for the Brazilian experience in just a minute. I will see you folks next week, or catch me on Tuesday nights for Bridging the Gap.
O Kameaaloha ia haipuana Pakpaka ua bambai loku maila Au he ana e haina ka na uka aku Mai ue aue e ku'upili E ku'upili
Hawaii lau o hilo he lau ka pu'u he mano ka ihona hau awa nei ku'uaho nei ku'uaho nei